1, begin. Our argument: we as society are responsible for giving people the best treatments for the best quality of life possible for them. This includes access to gene editing to those who require it.
Gene editing is a process in which you replace, insert, modify, or delete DNA in the genome of a living organism. There are two types of gene editing. One, somatic cells which are non-heritable, and germline cells which are both heritable and non-heritable.
Consider a mother battling with the decision of using genetic modification on her child who has Huntington's in order to cure him of this condition that will cut his life expectancy in half. This mother represents the thousands grappling with the potential consequences of this technology, although several arguments suggest that these fears are unnecessary.
Gene editing offers individuals with a genetic disorder a new life. Do we not have the responsibility to make sure everyone lives their life to the highest quality possible for them?
It will save the NHS a lot of money. It is estimated around 1 in 25 people in the UK have a genetic disorder, many of whom will rely on the NHS for treatments for several years. If we are able to treat these diseases before or just after they are born, it will save them and the NHS a lot of money.
Many restrictions have already been enforced against access to gene editing, so there is little chance individuals can use it irresponsibly.
For the mother in the scenario, it would help her to know that somatic cell editing has already been carried out successfully and has been researched for over 20 years. Overall, we believe it is our responsibility to give others access to gene editing to cure diseases regarding the human genome.
However, some argue that gene editing should not be allowed for various reasons. First of all, most people fear a lack of regulation around gene editing. Concerns that gene editing will be used unnecessarily and irresponsibly, particularly in regards to parents wanting to genetically enhance their children.
Many also raise the concern of a lack of knowledge about the long-term effects of gene editing on our health, especially in germline therapies, as we risk creating unpredictable ramifications in future generations.
Gene editing may also further the socioeconomic gap. In its early stages, gene editing might only be accessible to those who are more comfortable economically.
Furthermore, from a religious and moral standpoint, some question whether we have the right to manipulate God's creation, whether we have the right to modify embryos who cannot give consent, and whether we should learn to be grateful for who we are as opposed to trying to perfect ourselves.
Nevertheless, there are counter-arguments for many of these concerns. Most of the issues around gene editing concern the lack of regulations. However, many regulations are already in place to avoid gene editing being misused. And if it becomes a more widely used technology, further regulations can be put in place to ensure that all uses of gene editing are acceptable.
The socioeconomic issues surrounding gene editing also surround many existing healthcare facilities and are inevitable for such new technology. They could be addressed by introducing free initial rounds to people, like it is being done with the IVF service. Whilst this issue cannot be completely eliminated, as gene technology is researched further, the process is likely to become cheaper as well as safer. In conclusion, it is clear that most concerns surrounding gene editing can easily be eliminated with appropriate regulations. It is our responsibility to promote and help develop gene editing therapy to ensure we provide everyone with the best possible medical help.
While fears of gene editing being abused are valid, it would be unfair to use this worst-case scenario to strip thousands of families, like the mother and child mentioned earlier, of the chance to escape the immense economic and emotional challenges they are currently subjected to. We are responsible to give that child the best life, and that is through gene editing therapy.